What's up, Gaming Outsiders? Zach here. You'll notice it's not Scott on this one. Sorry for that again. And it is a bit of a shorter episode, but, it was just Alyssa and I. We tried our best to talk about the week's news, including, Square Enix selling off more of its stuff and Xbox Game Pass, doing a little bit of a family playing adventure. We talked about a couple new games, Live Live and South of the Circle, before we rolled right into the From the Outside In topic, which was trying to define what is a retro game. This is the Gaming Outsider. Greetings, programs, and welcome to episode 409 of the Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community. It's Sunday, August 7th. I am not Scott Clark. I am Zach Parkerson, but joining me this week is Alyssa White.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I am okay. I'm glad to be my fellow weeb today.
Right, yes. It's gonna be a weeb-centric episode because it is just you and I here.
Yeah, it's just the two of us.
Yeah, I think, well, finally my dream has come true here,
Aww.
You know what I'm saying?
Never knew that was your dream, but I'm glad to fulfill it.
Wow. Good. Okay,
now you gotta have another
board.
dream.
I'll mark that. Well, this could lead somewhere. Anyway, CB out saving lives, I'm sure. Scott Clark out trying to pretend he has friends. And that's where those guys are.
I'm already laughing. You already broke me.
But Alyssa, what kids you been playing this past week here?
I did check out Power Wash Simulator, which I know CB loved this game. I am not enjoying it.
No, I assumed it's like OCD, the video game.
It kind of is, like, it's soothing, but it didn't scratch the itch I had that House Flipper left behind, because House Flipper was much more about decorating and changing things, and in Power Wash Simulator, you're just power washing stuff, and the controls are kind of wonky.
Oh, that's no good. This is this is more like a lawn mowing simulator.
I would say probably. I haven't played that. I know Scott played it and loved it. Right,
yeah, he's a big fan.
And I know a lot of people love this game. Like, I'm sorry.
No, it's crazy out there for Power Wash Simulator, man. I think it's got to be Square Enix's biggest hit of the year.
It's Square Enix? I didn't even realize they were the ones who did it.
So it cracks me up as it's Square Enix published.
I haven't been paying attention to the splash cards, you can tell, when the game comes up.
Well, fair enough. I mean, it might be under some kind of label, like 2K sometimes publishes under private division.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was so funny that Square Enix is the publisher for Power Wash Simulator. Final Fantasy and Power Wash Simulator.
Yeah, who knew this would be such a big hit? But yeah, it's cool. Like, after you finish a job, it does I know CB's mentioned this. It does a replay where it shows you your character power washing everything. That's cool. But
like from the third person?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you do the power washing in the first
cool.
person, and then after you finish the job, it shows you doing everything in fast motion.
Right, good old fast motion.
I can't think of the word.
I think I don't know. Fast motion works, right? Fast forward. Fast forward. That's what I meant. Okay.
But I've spent, I think, like 2 hours trying to clean a backyard, and I have not finished it yet. I'm like, this backyard's probably never getting cleaned because I am tired of. I don't want to spend 3 hours or more doing this backyard.
Right, you got other games to play, man.
I know this segment is usually not like negative towards games we're playing. It's just I tried it on Game Pass and I didn't like it. I am tempted to get the Garden Flipper DLC for House Flipper though, because I loved it so much.
Well, that just makes sense, yeah.
But you have to pay for it. You don't get it through Game Pass. Well,
I think that's how they hook you with the main game. Yeah. They get you to pay the DLC. How much is the Garden Flipper anyway?
I think it said if you have Game Pass it's $18, but if you don't have Game Pass it's $20.
Holy crap! That's actually a really expensive DLC. I was expecting it to be $20. That's a whole game.
I would hope it has as much content as House Flipper, because I have nearly 2 days worth of time put into House Flipper.
Oh my god!
I know, it's insane.
You're a house flipping queen. I had no idea. Well, I have like much less time in Mass Effect 2. Which you're a big Mass Effect fan, right?
Yeah, that's my favorite game of all time.
Oh, whoa, pressure! I can
pressure.
I know, tons of it. I can understand why, having now played more of it. I mean, obviously, my memory painted Mass Effect 2 pretty brightly already because it was just great.
Yeah.
But yeah, now even loving the universe more. Like I'm listening to Mass Effect audiobooks at work and stuff. Man, I'm all in.
Oh, wow.
I'm all in on Mass Effect now. I'm Mr. Mass Effect. It's so good. Yeah. No, who's your favorite squad mate?
In Mass Effect 2 or just in general?
Just 2.
I always took Miranda with me. I always liked Miranda.
Oh, okay.
And then I usually would switch. I liked Garrus, but also I like them all. It's hard to say, but usually it was Garrus and Miranda. Usually,
yeah. Garrus is hard not to bring with because he's such an evolution from the first game, where he's got that little bit of a stick. As Joker puts it, he had the stick up his butt in Mass Effect 1, but now he's taking it out and he's beating people to death with it. He's a lot of fun. I really like Zaid, who I know is a DLC character.
He was cool, yeah. And Costumey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I have. Well, yeah. Legendary Edition, you get everything right.
Yeah.
I think I had them before, but I think my memory kind of forgot them because they don't have real dialogue trees like everybody else does.
Yeah, they don't really.
Yeah, but Zaid's cool because he's always got something to say in some kind of weird Jason Statham-esque voice.
Oh, I love it.
And he knows every mercenary and every mission. It's fun. Yeah, but yeah, no. Anyway, my journey through Mass Effect 2 continues. I'm still not super far. I only have. I think I'm about to get done with the first chunk of companions to recruit. But yeah, man, I'm absolutely loving these games. But what do you say? Why don't we jump into the news?
Sure.
I would argue a bit of a lighter week, but there's a new trailer for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet out. Turns out Square Enix might be selling even more of itself off. Steam's added Joy-Con support, which is pretty cool. That Halo 2 challenge from a few weeks ago, the Lasso challenge, did have somebody finish it, which just seems like that's an insane way to spend your life. And then Xbox is actually testing a Game Pass family plan in Colombia and Ireland. Alyssa, does anything here jump out to you?
The Square Enix potentially selling more steaks issue or thing.
Yeah, right. I think that's kind of the bigger news of the week. But obviously, Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal already got sold to Embracer due to cannibalization from other studios. They say, splitting the resources, as it were. But it sounds like Phase 2 is going to have them look at their portfolio studios and decide if they need to sell more. Yeah, I think this is all in an effort to refocus on Japanese titles, which might be smart. Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're really known for, at least over here, is their JRPGs, for the most part. Right,
for the most part, unless you're a weirdo like me, you got a Tomb Raider tattoo on your arm. Then Square Enix is the Tomb Raider company. I wish I had a Tomb Raider
tattoo on my arm, by the way.
She's pretty cool, that Lara Croft. Tell you what.
I agree.
New game coming soon for Crystal Dynamics. What do you think about Square Enix refocusing on Japanese games here? I mean, it sounds like if I were a betting man, just in the way everything seems to be getting gobbled up left and right, it seems to me like they're getting rid of their ancillary studios to make them easier to buy.
Yeah. Which, I could see Sony, diving into that.
Right, which
they are an interested party.
No, definitely, and better Sony than something like Tencent, the arm of the communist government. But yeah, I think the industry in general sucks with all the consolidation and purchasing, but better Sony than somebody else. And honestly, outside of the odd Switch exclusive, one of which I'll be talking about later, most of Square Enix's games are locked to Sony. I mean, especially Final Fantasy is all but an exclusive franchise at this point. I
mean, it just feels natural for if Sony were to take that initiative for them to get it.
Right. No, I think that's right. And if they sell off all their extra studios, they're just going to be left with their creative business units, which there are 4 creative business units, which makes Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, and all the HD 2D games, which again, I'll be talking about one later. You have Luminous Productions, who is going to be making Forspoken, if that game ever comes out.
It looks great, and I hope it does.
I know. Well, yeah, I'm hit or miss on the dialogue, but yeah, no, it looks good. And then Tokyo RPG Factory, which made I Am Setsuna, which is just a terrible name for a studio, man.
Yeah, it's not a great... It's not very
sounds
original.
Like a sweatshop. And then Square Enix London Mobile, who making Tomb Raider Reloaded. I think they're working on a Hitman Sniper game. So yeah, they're going to get pretty lean here shortly if these other sales go through.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead. Do you want to see a Square Enix bought up by Sony?
I don't really know. That's a hard question because I do think it'd be natural for Sony to own Square Enix, but also I don't know. Like all these acquisitions, it's just
right.
There's so many nowadays.
That's my thing. We're inching closer and closer to the Blade Runner future of 3 companies owning everything. It just reminds me of in the 4th Aliens movie, Weyland-Yutani gets bought out by Walmart, and I remember thinking that was so hilarious.
I don't remember that storyline, but it's been forever since I've seen that movie.
I think they just mentioned it in the background,
okay.
But I thought it was so funny at the time, but then it's just I guess it's inevitable. Actually, it's depressing.
It's depressing. Just imagining Walmart buying Weyland-Yutani now.
TikTok. It's certainly Amazon. Well, Amazon is Weyland-Yutani, actually. So
that's true.
Yeah. So anything. It's just you and I here, so we got to try to.
Yeah, we gotta.
Is there anything else here that's sticking out to you, or do you have more to say on Square Enix?
I don't have much else to say about Square Enix. I did watch the trailer for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which I played the majority of Pokemon games. And this one looks pretty cool, honestly. It's going to be the first open world Pokemon game, and you're going to class. And I'm like, they're putting school in Pokemon?
Smart, go after the Persona crowd, loud and proud.
Yeah, I mean, it really gives me, it gave me kind of like Fire Emblem 3 Houses vibes, because you go to school and then you're out in the field. So you'll be going to school, and then you'll be out in the field, catching Pokemon, doing all that kind of stuff.
And it looked like is there a motorcycle Pokemon happening in this game? It looked like
it did look like that, yeah.
And
the starter hilarious. Pokemon are all like they're all derpy looking, but they're also adorable.
That's fair. Yeah, I say this every Pokemon game, but it does look like something I want to jump into. But it kind of looks like I didn't even think about the Fire Emblem thing. That's smart. It does. That's probably where the Nintendo DNA bleeding over. But to me, it looked like Persona mixed with what Arceus was trying to do with the open world kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then there are gyms and stuff, so you still have the more traditional structure of a Pokemon game, which is what I wanted. When I saw Arceus, I was like, yeah, that looks cool, but I want that plus getting gym badges and stuff. And it sounds like that's what this is, so I might be out of excuses. I might have to play a Pokemon game since Ruby might have been the last one I played.
I can't remember the last one I played. I think it was maybe Y on the 3DS.
Okay. Well, those are popular. Yeah, so you missed a few of them then.
Mostly the ones that came out on Switch, yeah. I've missed.
Oh yeah, they did Sword and Shield, right? Yeah.
They did, yeah. And then Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee.
Oh yeah. Yeah, damn. Man, they've been going hard on the Switch.
They have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I think Pokemon looks sweet. November 18th is when it's coming out there, and good for them. I do want to say shout out to streamer Jervelin for beating Halo 2 Legendary Edition with the Lasso Challenge, which is all but one skull. I can't remember which skull it's not turned on, but you have to beat the entire game without dying is this challenge. And boy, I mean, some of those skulls are insane, like there's one where like you can only heal with melee attacks, but then you could also die in one hit, so you just have to dodge all fire to heal. So good on Jervelin. Did it in response to Charles Critical White Jr.
I'm not related to that person, by the way.
Well, fair enough. Everyone's got Matrix names now. But yeah, he offered $20,000 if somebody could beat it, and he paid up. So Jervelin, $20,000 richer. Good for him.
Now, I wish I was related to him since he paid a $20,000 reward for that.
Well, I don't think he'd be giving you a cut. No offense.
I know. It'd be nice to, just be related to someone like that.
Yeah. And I think the Xbox Game Pass family plan is just, it sounds nice, but it also just sounds inevitable. So it makes sense that they're testing it in Columbia and Ireland. But if they want to get Game Pass in every home, allowing up to 4 people on a subscription is just smart.
It is, yeah.
And they're they're not just going after gamers, right? They want to be on TVs. They want to dominate everywhere. So yeah, it just makes a lot of sense.
And it's currently set at about €22 a month, which is $22.40 here in United States, but expected to be a more even number when launched here, whenever it launches.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's like $30, you split that 4 ways. It's pretty good.
That's cheap. Yeah.
Pretty good deal. Absolutely.
We are an independently funded podcast, which means we must pay for our podcast hosting services and website all on our own. Which is why we have a Patreon page where fans can contribute monthly to help offset the cost of production, as well as give back to the community. If you'd like to help out, you can do so at patreon.com/thegocast, and patrons at the $3 a month level even get some bonus episodes. Zach, what's currently available for those members?
Well, I know, so we still have the Break the Seal, Max Payne 1 and 2. That was a lot of fun with me and Scott, because Max Payne's one of my... You can hear me quoting a lot of Max Payne quotes there, because one of my favorite scripts in a game. But yeah, I think we owe some back episodes, so we're trying to make those up in the month of August, so you should get more this month. I know coming up is... Nate and Scott's trade-off series, where they keep swapping Zelda and Sonic games because that's each of their favorite franchises. Kevin is what I meant to say. You know what? I'm gonna leave that in there just so
Sonic
Nate
King.
gets yes, King of the Sonic. That's who I meant to say. That's what my brain said. My mouth did not. Anyway, and then we also have a Desert Island Games coming from CJ Moore. So once again, where you can hear these more flubs like that live, because we don't edit the Patreon episodes, so you get all the swear words and all the goodness at patreon.com/thegocast. As for games we've actually been playing, we always have to go down the new releases first, of course. But 2 Point Campus comes to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, and PC August 9th. That is going to be on Game Pass, which is curious for me just because of the close-knitting relationship between Sega and Microsoft. You know, it's something to watch out for. I'm waiting for Persona 6 to be on Xbox Day 1. That'd be a real twist of the knife, I think.
It would be.
Lost in Play makes its way to Switch and PC August 10th. This basically, it looks like Gravity Falls, which is
the
great.
graphical style is beautiful.
Looks great, yeah. And then Book Quest comes to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, and PC August 10th. Cult of the Lamb is a new roguelike that seems to be taking the internet by storm. Comes to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and Switch, as well as PC August 11th. Rumbleverse, which I'm sure will be dead on arrival, is coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC August 11th. You can only have so many games like that.
It is free, though.
It is free to play, but there's about 1,000 free to play games that look like this, so I don't know how it bodes for Rumbleverse.
Yeah, that's true.
But Arcade Paradise is a 90s fueled adventure game coming to PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, Switch, and PC August 11th. Spider-Man finally makes its way to PC August 12th with, of course, all the modding tools. Looking forward to seeing what they do with Black Hat there.
Oh, yeah.
And, and Super Bullet Break comes to PS4, Switch, and PC August 12th. Alyssa, are any of these games calling out to you, or is it going to be another backlog week?
I believe this will be a backlog week. Nothing is really piquing my interest that much. I will say Lost in Play looks gorgeous, but other than that, I mean, maybe check out 2 Point Campus on Game Pass, but that's about it for me. What about you, Zach? Anything tickle your fancy?
I think it points to my age that I saw Lost in Play, and I was like, man, I wish I could watch that.
Did you... You just said, that pointed to my age. You're a year older than me, Zach.
Well, sure. But, you know, I'm aging less gracefully than you are, Alyssa.
Oh, no,
you know, look at you.
You look handsome, Zach.
Well, you look beautiful, Alyssa.
Oh, thank you.
Let's take this off the air. As for me, I think Cult of the Lamb looks cool, like, artistically, but...
It does. It's just the roguelike thing for me.
I can't do with roguelikes anymore, yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm somewhat infamous on the show for never having liked roguelikes that aren't named Hades.
I haven't either.
Have you played Hades?
I have not played Hades. Maybe I need to.
It's different. It's like it's story roguelike. It's weird. You play through 100 deaths, and yet I never heard the same dialogue twice.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
It's remarkable, and the story is aware that you continually come back. That's a very good game. I think you'd like it, especially if you like Bastion and Transistor.
I do
at
like
all.
those.
Or Pyre. I never did play Pyre, but
I haven't played that one either.
But if you like Bastion Transistor, definitely that flavor of game. But yeah, for me, the 100% backlog game. Probably because I will be too busy playing Live Alive on the Nintendo Switch.
And you're also reviewing Live Alive. I thought it was pronounced Live Alive. I don't know how to say it.
Yes. So it depends where you go. I feel like either any of them work. Live Alive, Live Alive, Live Alive. I say Live Alive because the Nintendo Direct lady said Live Alive last time I heard her. Although there was a time before that where she did say Live Alive. So I have no clue.
Well,
how
I
you're
heard a
supposed to say
guy
this
on
game.
the Nintendo thing say Live Alive. I'm like, no one's got their facts right.
Yeah, and to me, it would make more sense if the game was just called Live a Life, because you're playing as 8 different people in history.
Which looks really cool. Even just from the trailer, yeah, you're like all these different characters in different time periods.
Yeah, so that's exactly what it is. It's somewhat like Octopath Traveler, right? Spoke to me because I thought it looked gorgeous, and you're playing these 8 different characters, and they had their each storylines, but I could never get into it because my storytelling brain could not right the wrong that was the fact that the other people were your party members, but they weren't actually part of the story.
Oh, okay.
That the characters were in. So they didn't really overlap. It was just basically like 8 independent campaigns, which would have been fine, but it just broke my brain. But I was also the kid who wouldn't let anybody fly the Falcon but Han Solo. So like I'm always make it make sense. But here in Live Alive, it's easier because you start with 7 distinct timelines. You can go prehistory, the Wild West, I think Imperial China. There's a present day, near future, distant future. There's a few of them, and each one has its own character. And I started with the Wild West, and it's just a total trope fest Wild West thing. You come in from out of town, you're the gunslinger that nobody knows, but you come into town and you've got the wanted poster, but you sling up to the bar. You're just trying to ignore everybody until some guy comes, pushing on you. Then you got to push back. It's just total classic Western, which was very interesting to see in a JRPG format.
Oh yeah, totally. And this is not a new game per se. This is one of their HD 2D games that they're bringing back. That was it was only available in Japan for the longest time.
Right, yeah, a weird game to remake because it was a 1994, like you said, Japanese only Super Nintendo game that bombed. Yeah, so it's weird that like it's just been alive via cult mentality in Japan all these years, and then what an interesting game to bring back with full voice acting too, which I was not expecting at all.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it is fun, and I think it's intentionally cheesy, the voice acting.
I would hope so.
Because the Western accents are real over the top.
Oh, I can imagine a Japanese game portraying the Western area.
Yes. Yeah. But the game itself, like, it looks so beautiful. Like, everything looks like a diorama. Like, the towns are in 3D, but when you're front facing, it still kind of looks like a sprite, but you can, walk around things and see that it is in 3D, which I know is old hat for Octopath Traveler players. But yeah, I started with the Western one because it was the most unique or looked like the most unique one. And it's kind of cool. Like, so the combat in any time period is a turn-based grid system where, like, you can move around, like you would in a Fire Emblem game right on a grid. Mm-hmm. But every step you take fills the enemy's turn meter. So you want to try to, get your attack off before they get theirs off. So it pays to move as little as possible.
Okay.
Yeah. It's neat. It's very simplistic. There are inventory equipment screens and stuff, but they didn't feel super necessary. And because like the Wild West one, I think I beat in an hour and a half. The whole
okay. I was going to ask how long the campaign was for that.
It's pretty short. I hear some of them are longer. I've heard the average is about 2 to 3 hours for them.
That's still not too bad.
But I think, no, definitely not. And but the Wild West one didn't have like a lot of exploration stuff. It was all in that town, and it was cool because this gang was coming in from out of town. You had like set traps and stuff, which was kind of neat. You had like big dig tar pits to like trap their horses and stuff. It was kind of
poor horses.
Yeah, well, hey, they're in the way. And yeah, it was just like this neat, really short Wild West adventure. And then I jumped to the near future after that, which you play as a psychically powered young man who rides his motorcycle around town, taken over by a corporation. And if that sounds somewhat familiar already, the main character's name is also Akira.
I was going to say, that sounds very similar to the movie.
So I don't think they're... Between this and the Wild West thing, it's pretty obvious they're leaning into every trope imaginable, which is fun. And but then the near future kid, right? You can drive a motorcycle around the city, and he has the ability to. You could read any NPC's mind to see what they're thinking.
That's cool.
It is, and it's neat. Like, it's just so different than the Wild West one, right? Where it didn't have exploration. You were just setting these traps up, and you basically having your tumbleweed showdown in the middle of town and all that. But then you come here, and it's almost like a totally different kind of game. The core combat, the grid-based, turn-based combat is the same, but other than that, I think each time period is going to have its own unique mechanics and stuff, and its own little short story. And it's funny because like the near future one starts all dramatically with the character. He's looking at you on the screen. And he's like, "Are you satisfied with your life?"
Like, don't call me out like that.
I know. It was just like such overwrought narration. So I think it's trying to be over the top on purpose, and it's a lot of fun.
It sounds like it. I mean, it's definitely piqued my interest just hearing you talk about it.
Yeah, I don't so far the near future and the Wild West have had like a name in common, but I don't necessarily know how that connects yet. So I'm intrigued to see how there's definitely something happening in each of these time periods that binds these characters. So that's definitely pretty cool. And then I know you have to beat the 7 starting time periods and you unlock the Middle Ages. So that's intriguing because what's happening in the Middle Ages that makes it so important. And then I'm pretty sure you unlock a final 5-6 hour campaign after all of those. So there's still a lot of game to look forward to. I like that, I basically played a 2-hour JRPG, last night.
Yeah, that's insane to think about.
And it felt fulfilling. It was a nice little short story. It's cool. Like I like the idea of these little bite-sized adventures. It's nothing's happening that's knocking my socks off or anything like that, but it's a lot of fun. And it's rare that I call a game gorgeous because I'm not the graphics guy, but the way the art style works here is just breathtaking. Honestly, it's beautiful.
Definitely sounds like one I want to try out sometime.
Yeah, it's super easy, at least so far. I would assume that last campaign that you unlock is probably going to be tougher, but it's a pretty easy to get into JRPG. Like this could definitely be baby's first RPG.
Oh, now I'm just picturing a baby trying to play this RPG.
I think they could do it. But yeah, no, it's a strong recommend from me. It's a $50 game on Switch, so it's not asking the world of you. I was surprised there was a physical version of this game, but I did pick it up, and yeah, I think you would love it, Alyssa. I think a lot of people would. But you've been playing South of the Circle on Xbox, which looked very much like an Alyssa game from the trailers.
I actually finished it last night. It is a very short game. So I'm going to be writing a review about this, so I don't want to say too much, but also I do want to talk about it.
Right. Yeah, we need the rundown for sure.
So you're playing as this man named Peter, and I forgot the year. It takes place during the Cold War. So if anyone knows the year that takes place in, I will look it up later.
That lasted a long time, but let's
it takes place during that era.
Okay.
So you're playing as Peter.
Early 80s. We'll just have that.
Okay.
Anyway, continue. Sorry.
You're playing as Peter, and he is a climatologist, and he's just fascinated with clouds. And he's trying to write a paper about how clouds and radiation are connected. He's spent 3 years trying to write this paper, and he's getting nowhere, and he's being harassed by the professor at his college because he's a professor there as well, but he has a head professor above him. Whatever that title would be called, I don't know.
I don't know. It'd be a dean? I don't know.
Maybe the dean. So that story. But then what's really going on is you're in Antarctica. Your plane has crashed, and your pilot is injured. So you leave him behind, and you're trying to find help out in Antarctica. Antarctica. There we go. If I can speak, that would be great. And really, as you go along your journey, you get flashbacks. So then you get flashbacks to when he's a professor at the college, when he meets this woman named Clara. Just all these different moments. And that's what really makes this game special, is the flashbacks during the journey of trying to survive. The flashbacks are wonderful, and they give you the whole story. And it was just a really intriguing time. It only took me about 3 hours and 45 minutes to play the entire game. And
wow, okay.
I got every single achievement. So it is very easy to get everything in the game. But I would say if you want a really compelling story in a game, but you don't want too long of an experience, definitely check this out. It kind of reminded me of Firewatch in a way, but not Firewatch.
Right, so there's not a lot of interacting, it sounds like, going on here.
You do walk a lot, but there's not a ton of interaction. You do have, at certain points, dialogue choices, which they don't affect your story. The game can only end in 2 different ways, and there's only one choice that changes the ending. But the dialogue choices do kind of change. They change Peter's personality, so they're all they're all different colors, but if you're colorblind, they do have different shapes, so you know, and it'll tell you at the start of the game, this means this. So I tried to make him as positive and happy as possible, but you can make him a totally jaded guy, you can make him really anxious as he's going along. It doesn't change your story, but it changes the way he acts.
Okay, I mean, so it's got a little bit of replay value there.
Yeah, a little bit. I wouldn't say there's too much, but there is a little bit, and you can, at certain points in the game, interact with objects such as radios, you can read papers. Not too often, but occasionally you get to do that.
Right, so it's a good old-fashioned walking simulator.
Yes, it is.
Which I know is always used as a pejorative, but I think it's a fun term, and I like walking simulators.
I do too, which is why I wanted to play this, and I really enjoyed my time with it.
Well, it's good. I mean, that's all you can ask for.
I finished in 2 sittings, and that's just because I can't sit for more than a couple hours at a time, so you could totally play it in 1 sitting.
Right. Hey, I'm a firm believer in short games, you know that. So, bring them back, I say.
Yeah, so I do recommend this game if you like stuff like Firewatch.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I like the look of it, so I mean, maybe I'll check it out at some point, you know, if I ever stop playing Mass Effect games endlessly and reading Mass Effect books and Mass Effect Life. I want to say, you reminded me, Live Alive, or Live Alive, has the Wild West story had multiple endings. Okay. So I assume they all do. So I think they give you a little bit of replay value there. There's a blood feud in the Wild West one, not surprising as it is a Western.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I decided to put down my irons and walked away from it.
Be a pacifist.
Tried, we helped each other out. There's no need for bloodshed now.
No.
But it's fun, but it led to an extra bonus scene where I had to fight an extra boss fight, basically. So there's a little bit of variation there, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, but hey, good for us. We played some good games this week.
We did.
Well, if you ever want to talk with people about the new games you're playing, you can always check out our Facebook.com our Facebook group at facebook.com/group/thegocast. Or we also have a Discord, which you can find a link to on our website, thegamingoutsider.com. I'm in there occasionally, less than I should be, though, no doubt.
Same here. I should be in there more.
Yeah, it's just I'm not the most social human in the world. So, but I pop in there every now and again. I like to talk to the Parker Sons, especially.
Yeah, you have a whole fan group, Zach. You should be in there more. Is it the Parker?
Yeah.
I also saw Parker Sons.
You're right. Yeah. I feel like they go back and forth.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. If they see too much of me, then the allure will be gone.
Yeah.
I know. I got to seem exotic,
elusive
out there. Elusive. Ooh, yeah. Like the elusive man.
That's what I was thinking about, because you're playing Mass Effect.
Yeah. If only I was as cool as Martin Sheen.
I think you're cooler than Martin Sheen.
Well, that's an insane thing to say. But I love the elusive man just straight up chain smoking in the future.
Oh yeah, totally, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure they probably have medication to just counteract the lung cancer at that point.
I would hope so.
Right, for his sake.
But yeah,
we're totally off the mark. I'm sure we'll have some written reviews. You got a South Circle review coming up. If you guys go to our actualgamingonsider.com website, I'm sure I will have a Live Alive review at some point. Although I suspect it's going to, despite only being 2 hours a character, that's still, at least 20 hours minimum just to get through the character. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, I think it's time we go to the From the Outside In topic.
I think so too.
So last week, we talked about whether retro games are a waste of time or not. This week, Chad Cusick from our team over at the Gaming Outsider suggested we talk a bit more about retro games. How old does a game need to be considered retro, and whether or not retro games still hold up? Let's start with actually defining a retro game. How many generations old does a game need to be before you consider it to be retro, Alyssa?
This is actually tough because I kind of consider games that are, PS2 and earlier retro.
Okay, yeah, we're of the same mind then.
But I grew up with the PS1 and the PS2. I didn't ever get the chance to play any Nintendo consoles as a kid besides my Game Boy. And I never played any other previous consoles as a child, so I didn't really get that experience. So for me, retro is the PS1, PS2 era, because most of those games really don't hold up well.
Oh boy, yeah, we'll have to talk more about that.
Yeah.
But later. But yeah, for me, I'm with you. I think PS2 and older in my brain is retro, but I'm sure that's also our age, right? Because we're of a similar age. I'm sure Scott and CB would be like, oh, it's got to be PS1 at least, or something like that, and I'm sure my goddaughter who is 16 would be like, PS3, that's ancient. So I think it's just all relative. But for me, it's just hard to look at PS3 games and think of them as retro because, Uncharted 3, The Last of Us, like these games are still beautiful games.
Yeah, I mean, they're older, but they're not retro.
Right. And I think part of it for me as well, is that PS3 era is when all the genres and stuff started solidifying. Mm-hmm. You knew what button to push to slam at a cover. You knew what button to press to aim and shoot. So, it's really easy to go back to any of those games. And I think that's going to be the way for a long time, especially with the complete lack of genre innovation we're seeing in this day and age. It's just going to be... I feel like it's going to be easy to go back to those games for a long time.
I think so, too, yeah.
Right. Well, you were talking a little bit about how PS2 games are old. Do retro games hold up for you, or are there any consoles that hold up better than others that you can think of?
I mean, I remember my mom trying to replay the original Tomb Raider several years back on a PS2, and as a kid, I thought this game looked great, amazing, everything looked realistic, and then my mom turned the console on, stuck the game in, everything was just a blurry mess of pixels, and I'm like, how did I decipher this as a child?
Oh no!
How did that look so good back then?
Well, it is funny to think that we used to, you see all those games every now and again, like a Jack 3 or something, where you're like, oh, I remember looking at this and going it'll never look better than this. It's impossible for games to look better than this.
And then it does.
Right, and then we just get proven wrong time and time again. And then you're looking at it, God of War Ragnarok, you're like, there's no way. How will we ever get a game that looks better than that? Well, we also know it's inevitable.
It is. But I mean, some games, like Galaga and Pac-Man, they might sharpen the visuals as they put them on the newer consoles, but you can still play the original titles and they still look decent, it's not a confusing mess. They still look good for when they came out. Right.
So you're of the mind sprite-based artwork holds up better than the early 3D stuff.
Totally.
Yeah, even for me, I definitely can't argue that, even if I myself don't have a lot of problems going back to the PS1 era. But there's no denying that it's Soul Reaver is not a very readable game. It's just by looking at it anymore.
I love that game, and I really wish they would do a remake, remaster, something of it.
Definitely, yeah. I played that game on my Vita, and it was, it was certainly playable, but yeah, it would be. I guess it would be nice to see something touched up. So I guess for me though, I struggle when people like go back and they say the game can't hold up at all, because you know what you're getting into when you put in Tomb Raider 2, the disc.
Yeah.
You know you're playing something from 1997. So I think I don't think it's fair to the art to do anything other than meet it halfway.
Yeah, that's true.
And Tomb Raider, I guess, especially like because it works on a grid system and stuff, like it's definitely not fluid. But you kind of have to retrain your brain. And I think that's part of what I used to love about video games was that every game played so differently. Like even a game would have the right trigger be reload, or a game would have square. But like it felt like every time I was playing a new game, I was solving a new puzzle or learning a new language or whatever. And that's been totally taken away from video games now.
Yeah.
So
I remember having to read the instruction manual that came with the games because it would tell you all the controls, because every game, like you said, had different controls. So you had to study the book before you played.
Right, which was fun. I liked studying the book.
I did too. I miss instruction manuals. I know I say that a lot, but I do.
Oh, I mean, me too. I don't know if I would realistically look at them anymore, because games just teach you everything. Well, I guess they don't really need to teach you anything anymore. But
yeah, they don't, because we all know, right trigger shoots, left trigger you aim with.
Right, we know which button will be jump, etc.
Yeah.
But I kind of like back in the day not knowing that, having a little bit of surprise. So I kind of like revisiting old games that way. Like I've actually been, I played Final Fantasy X early this year. I played Xenogears last year. I've definitely been trying to play older stuff more often, which is tough to do when you have this show. But so I think so a long way of saying, I say all that to say this. I think retro games do hold up for me, and I particularly like revisiting the PS1, PS2 era, just because, I had an N64 growing up around that time, and while I did have a PS1, and so I got to play Final Fantasy IX and games like that, we were also, victims of armed robbery, so my PS1 went with that.
No.
So,
That's
so
awful.
it's just, it's just what happened. So my time with PS1 was short-lived, so it's been nice to kind of revisit that era and play those games. And yeah, for me, they hold up, especially just because I mentally prepare myself before I jump in.
Oh yeah.
I know the shooting's going to be bad.
It just don't go in with rose-colored glasses.
Right. Yeah, I would say it's sometimes tougher to go back to a game you do love, because your memory does rose tint glass all the rough edges away, and then you come face to face with them. But I would say Xbox and onwards, PS2 and onwards, I think most of the games are certainly 100% playable.
Oh, for sure.
So do you think these younger whippersnappers are going to be playing older games in the future, or do you think they're going to be locked into the...
No, because I doubt it. But I mean, I have a cousin who's about 7 years old, and all he plays is Fortnite and Roblox and Minecraft. So I can't really imagine like him growing up and itching to play, something from the PS1, PS2 era.
Yeah, I'm sadly with you. And part of it is just older media dies out, right? Like there are tons of movies from the 70s and 80s we've never seen, and there are plenty of movies from the 40s and 50s my parents have never seen. It's just how these things go. But I think video games are definitely a tougher sell, just because of you do have to interact with them, and like you said, if you go back to a PS1 game, not everyone's going to want to do that. And yeah, I can't see a lot of kids wanting to explore the history of video games, which I know is that's probably just an old man thing to say. I'm sure there are plenty of people who want to, but then they're going to be faced with the reality of how difficult it is, especially with the way the collector market is. And, it's just kind of pricing people out of playing old games, honestly.
I mean, also, you have to have the consoles for to play these older games, because, unless you have an Xbox that, has backwards compatibility with, the previous console generations, you're going to have to find a PS2 an Atari 2600, whatever, and then have to find the games as well. So, unless they remake it on a modern console. So, you also have to do a lot of hunting around for that kind of stuff, too, if you want to get into the retro aspect of it.
Right, and hopefully, I would assume a lot of games will just be available via streaming by whatever feature they're in. But I honestly think the bigger struggle is going to be, does the next generation going to want to pay for games at all?
That's true, because we got Game Pass now. I mean, you pay a flat monthly fee, you get all these games that you can play whenever you want.
Right, and then if you want to, and then all the biggest games are, Fortnite, Minecraft, all these free-to-play games.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess a notable exception being Grand Theft Auto 5, but, any other massive game tends to be free-to-play or a low barrier to entry, and it doesn't feel like the industry or the major publishers right now super care about art. They care more about the dollar, which is, I think, something every medium has gone through. So I'm sure it will circle back, but it does seem like the overwhelming majority of people are playing these, especially younger people are playing these free-to-play kind of games. And I don't know, I'm sure they can fall in love with video games that way, but like I fell in love with video games because of the stories they were telling and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, me too.
And that is what, I guess I'm a little bit of an exception because my grandpa made me play the different console generations growing up, but what made me want to go back and, explore these older games that I miss was because of falling in love with the way the medium sells stories and stuff. And I just don't think you're just not getting that in Fortnite. You're getting you're getting concerts in game or whatever, and comets dropping to rechange the landscape, but you're not getting a real story in Fortnite.
No, you're not. And I mean, some people say you can kind of make your own story in Minecraft with building whatever, but it's not there. There's not a concrete story there. It's just you're building what you want to build, or fighting the different enemies in the game.
Right.
But there's no concrete story.
Yeah, and if the games you're playing now don't have concrete stories, it's going to be a hard sell to go play retro games and see what their stories were like, because that's going to be your main impetus for replaying old games, right? Is to see their stories. But I assume most people are probably just watching YouTube videos of them.
That's true.
Well, you want to jump over and see what the community has to say?
Let's do that.
We start with Facebook here. Alyssa, why don't you read the first comment?
Okay, Josh, is it Stima or Stima?
I believe it's Stima.
If I said your name wrong, I'm sorry. Josh Stima says, I think any game that is 4 console generations old could be considered retro just based on how quickly the industry technology evolves and changes. Most games I deem classically retro are mainly due to the story and not necessarily the gameplay or visuals.
Wow, retro due to the story, huh? I assume you mean like old platformers maybe didn't have stories and stuff like that?
Yeah, they didn't really have stories. I think a lot of the older retro games had really good stories.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't know, Josh might have to disagree with you here. Just because I think a lot of retro games had better stories in some instances. Like playing Xenogears for the first time, that story was unbelievable. It had so much philosophy and these grand ideas happening and religious analogs and stuff. It just really taken some big swings that I don't think any publisher in their right mind would greenlight today at a substantial budgetary value like they did back then.
Oh, for sure.
So I guess classically retro in that the stories were different, but yeah. For me, I mostly gameplay visuals definitely mean retro. And that's why, again, PS3 is just not going to feel retro because there's a diminishing returns every console generation. Like I don't think PS4 games looked demonstrably better than PS3 games like PS3 games did for PS2.
Yeah, there's not as much of a leap.
Right, and PS5 just now being the proud owner of a PS5 for several months is a rudimentary refinement of graphics that are totally possible on PS4. I have yet to play a PS5 game, including exclusives, that couldn't be done on PS4.
And honestly, I know PS5 and Xbox Series X and S games, they have ray tracing and I'm not a graphics wizard or anything, so I don't know a lot of the terminology. But I don't even notice the ray tracing, even if I have it turned on, mostly. I'm too focused playing the game to pay attention to the extra details.
No, this is where, and I guess we're a little off tangent here, but no. I think this is where like Digital Foundry comes in. I think it's ruined a lot of people's brains because all the ray tracing of 4K 60 you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I think all this stuff you don't notice unless it is pointed out to you.
Yeah, like if it's pointed out to me, then I'm like, oh yeah, I see it, but I don't pay attention to it unless it's pointed out.
Right, this is where all the Twitter side-by-side comparison stuff come in. Because everyone tricks themselves into thinking this, super matters, but it doesn't. Your eyes cannot I'm waiting because science has told us that eyes can't see beyond 8K. So, I can't wait for TVs to pass 8K, and then everyone just continue to buy into how it looks better, even though your eyes scientifically can't distinguish it. But I can already see the Twitter threads of like 12K is so much better.
I didn't even know about the 8K thing, but now that I know, when I see like a 32K TV in a decade, I'm going to be like, I can only see 8K though. Why do I need this?
I know. But you'll see them sell it out because people are like, well, I got to make sure my PS7 looks the best it can, man.
I can't have FOMO.
Right, yes, yeah, you can't. You cannot be faced with FOMO. That is true. Jumping to Aaron Hughes II here. He says, pretty simple answer for me. Anything 16-bit and back is 100% retro. I do accept that 32-bit is becoming retro as well, but I'm not quite ready for that. Yeah,
I feel that last sentence.
Right. Especially like, what is vintage? Vintage used to be classified as anything 20 years or older, I believe.
I believe so.
So we're fast approaching the PS3 being vintage.
That means we're vintage, Zach, because we're older than 20.
I don't know about you, but I'm aging like a fine wine over here.
Hey, you said I was pretty earlier.
I said by that.
Well, then I'm a fine wine too.
No, I'll drink you up.
Oh.
Oh man, community's gonna report me for sexual harassment.
I'm sorry, that's not something you laugh about. It's just Zach.
No, I think it's you can laugh whatever you want about here on the Gaming Outsider. No, yeah, I think I'm also not ready for it, Aaron. But there are teenagers right now who look at the PS3 and think of that, as that ancient old brick,
that monolith.
Right. Oh, I can't believe you guys used to play on this thing.
You deal the red ring of death and the yellow light of death, was it? Yellow light of death.
Oh, why is the console of Spider-Man font? Oh, why don't you read the next comment, Alyssa?
Sean Coates writes, I think about this question frequently, especially after the new consoles were first hitting the market, which also happened to be around the same time that the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube were all turning 20 years old. We can split hairs all we want about how to calculate the retro cutoff, but ultimately I think it just depends on what we played in our childhoods. I mentioned the PS2 earlier, and for me that's not retro, or at least not yet. I was a sophomore in high school when those hit the market, and was well into college when they first started hitting their stride. Also, the PS2 is a strange case, as it had a super long 15-year life cycle, and was discontinued officially only 7 years ago. Meanwhile, to a Gen Zer, something the like of the Xbox 360 would be considered retro to them. I wish there was a definitive number to what would be retro, but when all is said and done, it's all arbitrary and subjective, and putting a number to it could be seen as a form of gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping, interesting look at it.
That is, yeah. And I do agree about the, it being, about age as well.
Right, yeah, this is where it would be helpful if we had people that weren't our age on here, like Scott, who was very old. And he thinks only the Atari is retro. He would be useful here, but I kind of wish we had a hard cutoff number. I wish there were more. I wish there were more serious video game historians in general, which I guess is silly to say because I guess we could fill that role if we wanted to. But I just think it's weird that video games as a medium seems wholly uninterested in preservation and history, and it's just weird. So I wish we had because in comics you have the Golden Age, the Silver Age, you have the names for all these eras. We don't have that in video games, and you have that in movies as well. And yeah, I just think maybe we're just too young, so we haven't seen the evolution of it yet. But I want to see more game historians out there. I know there is the Video Game History Museum down in California, but
I'd love to go to that one day.
Yeah, that'd be incredible. They do a very good podcast if you want to know about weird little nuggets of history. But yeah, I think Sean's right in that it is mostly subjective.
It is.
Thomas Beck's jumping over to Discord. He writes in, for me, retro games are anything from before the rise of the PlayStation and the Xbox. But I think a more reasonable metric would be any games from the previous generation of consoles. So that would mean, for now, any games from PS3 and before. Thomas is probably the closest in terms of scientifically nailing it down.
Yeah.
Two generations ago seems fair, especially with generations lasting longer and longer. It just makes sense, but I'm just not ready to call PS3 retro.
I know, me neither. It's just it makes me feel old to call it retro.
Right, that was my prime gaming time. I think I probably played more PS3 than any other console.
I mean, that's what got me back into gaming was PS3, because I didn't really play a lot during high school, but after I dropped out of college, which maybe don't do if you're in college.
Fellow college. Look, I'm a fellow college dropout. Look at us. We're doing a podcast on the internet.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
All right.
But, the PS3 is what got me back into gaming, and I've been gaming ever since. So, yeah, I don't want to call that retro.
Do you remember what game got you back in?
LA Noire. That was the first game I played on the PS3, and I fell so in love with it. Then I went to the Walmart bargain section, which I don't know, is that still a thing in the video game aisle? Where they were like $15 and under, and I snagged...
Yeah, it is, but I think it's like $30 and under now. But yeah.
Well, I remember I got Assassin's Creed 2, Dante's Inferno, I think I got BioShock from that section, and all for, they were $15 and under, and, Assassin's Creed 2 and BioShock I loved. I did enjoy Dante's Inferno at the time. I don't remember a ton about it.
I remember loving Dante's Inferno, but I too I haven't played it since it came out, but yeah, I remember.
It was a good game, though.
That game was, great.
So yeah, I have very fond memories of the PS3 era, and I don't want to consider that retro.
Yeah, it's tough to think about looking at a game like LA Noire and being like, that retro LA Noire
and back
game.
Then, that technology, everyone was so astounded by, the
facial technology?
Yeah, the facial technology. There we go. And how they had, the actor from Mad Men in there, and just how realistic it looked at that time, for the most part. It still looked a little wonky at times, but...
Well, it looked realistic, but because the technology was so ahead of it, they weren't, confident, right? Because every time somebody lied, it was so... they were shifting their entire eyes left and right. If they would look super smug, you'd be like, gee, I wonder if this guy's lying or not.
But then occasionally they would look like that and they weren't lying, and you'd be like, no, darn it.
Well, it was kind of tough to tell the distinction between doubt and lie sometimes. So
sometimes, I know. I remember that being so frustrating.
It was so funny, Cole just screaming down somebody's throat. Yeah. And then they proving you wrong, and he just goes, oh, never mind. He just scratches it off. It's so funny.
That was funny.
Oh, man. Yeah, no, I'm not ready to call LA Noire retro. So, Thomas, I refuse to accept your your probably very accurate assessment. Alyssa, you want to read the next comment?
Mark Zamansky writes, I'm in agreement with Thomas Bex when he said anything before the rise of PS and Xbox. If you saved your progress via cartridge memory or a key code, you're retro.
Dude, I hated the password systems. I can't believe there's a piece of retro I can't stand. The password system.
Also, the memory cards. They were so tiny. Back then we thought they had so much space on them, and when you filled it up, you had to go buy a new one, and you had to know which one had which game on it if you wanted to replay something. But now you're like 2 gigabytes. That was all that was on here.
Oh no, I only have. I only have 700 gigs on my PS3. What am I going to do?
I know, back then we were just happy with that small, meager amount.
I did kind of like memory cards because they're so easy to take to your friend's house.
They were, actually. You just had to make sure they were labeled somehow.
Right. And it was fun because all the PS2 games had the little memory card slot in the case.
I also loved going into the memory card on the console and seeing the little game icon.
Yeah, they were like dancing around, having a good time.
They're so fun.
Oh yeah, video game hardware used to have personality. Not anymore.
It's true.
But then you had if you only had the one memory card, you had to make the painstaking decision of
which game to delete.
What's gonna go away? Yep. Oh man, am I gonna get rid of this 100% Final Fantasy 9 file on here?
Maybe that's why I have so much trouble getting rid of stuff in my inventory in games now. When I reach full capacity, I'm like, no, it's too hard.
You don't want to feel the pain.
It's too painful. I don't want to say goodbye.
I think that's fair. Brandon Lloyd writes in, I agree, retro is before PS1 and Xbox. Pixel games hold up extremely well. Chrono Trigger and FF4 and 6 are still amazing. Games from the PlayStation era that were 3D boxy characters don't hold up nearly as well as Pixels and bit era gaming. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue. I do love the look of PS1 games, but it's obviously that's probably just my age, you know. And the fact that I never, like you, Alyssa, I didn't really fall out of gaming at any point, so I've clung to the nostalgia for the PS1 era, and I like that we're getting more and more games like Frog Gun, which just came out, which is trying to replicate that visual aesthetic. Because especially for like survival horror, there's something about the PS1 look that's just perfect. Oh yeah, to me.
Just think about back to Resident Evil, Silent Hill, stuff like that.
Right. Those locked camera angles and just the whole look of it, everything. It just, I'm a big fan of the way PS1 survival horror games look.
Especially having the tank controls and you couldn't see what was coming at you sometimes. You'd be like, oh no.
Right,
Am I going to be ambushed? Something going to jump out?
Definitely added to it. Oh man, I'm just going to fire down a shotgun down this hallway for no reason, just in case.
Waste my bullet.
Right, yeah.
I gotta be safe.
So it was a fun little push and pull from back in the day, absolutely. What about, you want to read the last comment here, Alyssa?
Final comment. David Newman writes, I guess I just don't understand why it's important to establish a timeline, whether by years or console generation. Seems pretty subjective and trivial to have a timeline for calling something retro, unless there's actual meaning to it, like increase in value after a certain time, or something else. Is there any real significance to establishing this timeline?
Well, I think I talked about it a little earlier that I think it's important just to have a historical grasp on it. I think it'll be good to assign eras and stuff so it's easier to discuss, that way when you have pretentious college courses about, film class and literary history, you can do that about video games as well.
And it's just nice to see, from the different eras how games have evolved and the accomplishments that have been made over time.
Yeah, and it would be easier to identify trends throughout history, like, oh, look, 2007, 2011, boy, it's just what happened that made everybody want to make a first-person shooter, It's just, it's interesting stuff. Maybe one day when I'm in my rocking chair, visiting my buddy Scott down at the home, maybe I'll write a book on the video game history and its eras.
I'd read it. I'd be in my own rocking chair.
Right, yeah. We'd be next to you. We'd have to be changing Scott's diapers. But, we'll take that on. We'll take that upon ourselves. He won't even remember he had a podcast. We're all just going to be
living at the same home.
Yes, yeah. Scott will have full-on dementia. I used to own Little Samson. Oh, my hero.
Zach's bringing me.
Yeah, I think that's as good a place as any to call it, unless you had more to add on retro games, Alyssa.
I think I've said as much as I could say.
Fair enough. Next week's topic has yet to be decided, but once it is posted, you want to get crazy, you could, obviously, you can always comment on Discord, Facebook, or Twitter. Where we're always thankful to have your comments, but if you want to get crazy about it, you can call the phone number 347-746-2278, and you can have your voice, your voicemail on the show or whatever. You could obviously, an easier way to remember that phone number is 3477-GO-CAST. But that will do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. Alyssa, you have any parting words here?
I watched Prey this weekend, which is the new Predator film, I guess you would say. It's really good. I really enjoyed it. Much more than the previous film, The Predator. That one was not that great.
Oh, no, yeah, where they established that the predators, in fact, were not always hunting for fun, but were, in fact, collecting DNA to increase their own
I don't even remember the story
so
from that.
Dumb, dude. It makes you so mad.
As soon as I watched it, it just got wiped from my memory. I just didn't like the previous one. But Prey really feels fresh, and I just really dug this movie. It's only about an hour and a half long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. It's fun, it's gory, it is rated R, so 18 plus, 17 plus. But it's just, and Amber Midthunder is just such a strong female lead in this. She has a lot of character, she goes through a lot of growth in such a short span of time. There's an adorable dog, and the Predator looks great with the redesign they did.
Yeah, I've heard there's a redesign. I haven't watched it yet myself. Although I did watch Predator 2 just the other night, and that movie holds up. I
have not seen any other Predator movie besides the first Predator and The Predator besides this movie. So I need to watch Predator 2. And then I have watched
Predators.
I have watched the Aliens versus Predators movie. Those aren't that great either.
Yeah, I am rewatching all of the movies right now, and yeah, Predator 1 and 2 are fantastic. I am dreading watching Aliens vs. Predator Requiem, especially, but
oh yeah, that's rough.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But yeah, oh man, Mike Harrigan, what a character. Anyway, point is, I want to watch Prey, but I'm deciding if I think I'm going to finish my rewatch and build up to Prey, kind of in an exciting way, because I think Prey looks awesome. The idea of Native Americans fighting a predator is just super cool, and especially with it looks like colonial invaders are there as well.
Yeah, and one really cool thing is if you have the desire to, they actually have this available where you can watch it fully dubbed in Comanche.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, that's just a really cool thing. And you can also have subtitles in Comanche with the English dub as well. But yeah, that's really cool, I think, just to have that option.
Yeah, no, I certainly agree with you. Boy, that movie looks cool. And I like that the movie's finally caught up to the Dark Horse comics of all the year, which was just like, so many of the comics were just, what if a Predator was in this time period?
It's nice. Really cool to see the Predator in 1719.
Right, it's just an idea that works, well, let's see all guns and you go up against a Predator, it's just a cool idea. Let's see a samurai fight a Predator.
That would be really awesome.
So I'm saying, man, the ideas are just easy and infinite. I don't know what the Disney era of Alien and Predator is going to look like. Obviously, Prey was in the works before Disney bought Fox. But, I'm worried they will tone down the R ratings.
I hope they don't, but we can never tell until it comes out.
All right. Yeah, well. Hey, thanks so much for listening. The Gaming Outsider is produced by Nate Lucas, and all the music you hear here is written and performed by Grant Henry of Stemage and Metroid Metal. You can find him at stemagemusic.com. Please be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. Until next week, I'm Zach Parkerson with Alyssa White, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.